That's if we need to change the G6 site. And also on the left-hand side is, you show the local navigation. So that's fine. So the left-hand navigation is a drill down of the divisions and directorates within the G6 or within that staff office. That is also information that it's not stored in that global navigation, but it pulls from the same content source. So updating that content source updates it across the portal. And just for the sake of argument, we'll show the G35 site to show the consistency between the organizational sites. And consistency was an important piece for rolling this out. Our 2007 environment was, for lack of a better term, all over the place. You would go from the G6 site to the G35 site, and it would look completely different. So Chief of Staff wanted to change that. He wanted to make things consistent across the staff offices. It doesn't mean you can't modify it. It doesn't mean the content owners can't put web parts on the page. That's still all in there. It is a SharePoint page. However, we provided a template, a starting point for each of those staff offices to have a similar look and feel across. So as you can see, the G35 site is a little bit more modified than the G6 site. Next tab over. This was the installations page that I was talking about. So we have a kind of a hover on the left-hand side. You hover over any of those installations. Some of them have more content than others, but we did want to make it very easy for and have it in one place so that anybody could go to that installation page and find information on various installation within AMC. Next tab. So this is the kind of skipping into the custom solutions. We're going to jump into that now. This is the workflow, the service requirements review board workflow. I can't actually show the live data because it's sensitive, but this is a test site that shows the Nintex workflow canvas. This actually allows end users, not system administrators, to design and publish their own workflows. That was a third-party tool that we had in 2007. There were some slight pain points in migrating, but by and large, we did get the data over. And this is just showing you kind of the capability of the canvas. Along the left-hand side are activities that you can add to this workflow. And just give you a little example of the SR2B workflow is a multi-stage approval workflow, and at each stage there's about 8 or 9 parallel approvals that happen. So it goes across all the staff offices for a first level review, then to all the staff principals for a second level approval, then to the command council for legal, and then finally, based on the amount of the service request, either to the EDCG or the G8. So it's multiple steps, a lot of hands in that workflow, concurring, non-concurring if they have problems, in which it gets kicked back to the submitter. Very dynamic tool built on top of Nintex workflow. Next. Unfortunately, because of our screen resolution, this doesn't turn out as nicely as I wanted it to, but this is the master event calendar. Master event calendar was an initiative that was started to roll up a lot of different calendar information into one single view. And the main purpose of this, well actually two purposes, is to show the command what's going on across the command, And two, and probably more importantly, was to show where the senior leadership was at a certain time of the week and what conferences or what events they were planning to go to. So this gives a very good situational awareness view of a command-wide event view of what's going on across the command, as well as where the senior leaders are in attendance. And last tab, I believe we have the week sum up. I don't have any data in here right now, unfortunately, but I will kind of, going on what Ms. Gatewood mentioned earlier, the week sum solution does automate the report function. So as the data rolls up to the higher level and is approved by the division chiefs, that data becomes viewable at the director level. We have a timer job built into SharePoint that will run and build that report weekly and store it in a document library on the left-hand side there. So that takes all of the formatting and all of the report generation completely out of that whole process. We use the OpenXML technology that we can write a Word 2007 or 2010 document directly on the server and push it out to the end user. Or we can use that technology as well and have SharePoint generate the document and store it in the document library. So every week, the G6XO can take a look at that document, pull it up on his computer. If there are any modifications that need to be made, perhaps misspellings, anything like that, that can be taken care of. Save it back in, print it out, give it to the CIO to take for briefing throughout the command. So that was a process, as Ms. Gatewood mentioned, that was very painful. Sometimes those reports were 50+ pages and days of formatting. So this automates that process. It's a very, very useful tool, and it can be used not only within the G6, but we can set it up for other directorates, even at the command level. It's very flexible. I believe that's my time.
Anything to add?
You good? We have a question in the back. You have a microphone?
Wait for mine. This site, is this run by the TA civilians or a contractor? And what kind of IA certifications are required to be the KM manager or like a site manager?
That's a good question. And Dan, maybe you can help me with that.
First of all, that we do have a contractor team that does the development, the architecture, and run the technical configuration control board. This depends on the organization. There are civilian content managers that manage their site and do that kind of thing. It depends on the organizational's resource constraints. You can hire somebody to do it, or you can use the current government staff that you have. So far as doing the content management, you don't have to have any kind of SA or computer environment type of training, except for your normal IA, computer awareness, with ASUGs, those kind of things. But it's not any technical thing that you would do just to operate your computer. Now, you want to address the...
I was going to add to that. We also do have a site collection administrator course. And part of the governance is if you're going to be a site collection administrator that you have taken that course.
And we do that to help you maintain the integrity of the site. This is not something that you go out there and do Excel for dummies and be able to build the Excel and things like that. This is something that if you don't do it right, it creates havoc for you and for anybody else using the portal, because it could cause some integrity problems across the entire site. So that's one of the things that we ask that they do as part of their job and roles and responsibilities.
Dan, did you want to? Okay.
I have a question. I have a microphone, so I guess I get to go first.
Yes.
So I'm from a schoolhouse, so I have an internal audience and an external audience. Does that make sense? So I've got staff and then I've got students. So is it possible to use the SharePoint and build roles based on that? So like if I have a guy that's at an external location, he puts in his cat card, but he can only see certain things based on where he sits.
That is, we do have an openness presence, you know, that they have their site, so it doesn't have to be geographically located the same place. And all roles and permissions are through the identity management and roles and responsibilities and the folder privileges. Like for the Commanders Conference, I just went in there and I said, okay, SGS and SIG and Chief of Staff, you tell me, because they're the authority, you tell me who can have the site privileges. View and contributor. There's a difference. Can they view and can they contribute? Okay? So yes, your entry into the network and into the site is by your CAP card, and then delineate those privileges down to the folder, even within an environment. Say, you know, you have some acquisition data that you have a contract team that's part of your team, but you don't want them to see that part. You can drill down and put privileges at the folder level for that particular area.
I wanted to add to that. Authentication is from your CAC. Authorization is from your content owner. So that can be separated between students and other roles as well.
But we actually, the EDCG asked us to set a site up for West Point, and they are outside of our domain so far as authentication, and we had to handle things a little bit different for them. That worked out real well, because we wanted to share with them opportunities at the command so that they could pick areas of interest for study.
Eddie Henderson, Fort Sill G6. How many people do you actually have on staff who support this SharePoint portal, if I can ask?
I can talk to that, and I'm going to talk to it from different perspectives. When we were migrating, we had 30. Probably could have used more because a lot of assistance was required, not just to do the migration part from 2007 to 2010, but I would have liked to give them more support to the user to help them check their content. Because it's one thing to look and see if a folder's there versus going down to the document, looking at the integrity before and after, so they actually can realize that. That's a lot of manpower stuff. So about 30 is what we had during the peak of migration and everything. Right now, because of resources, we have about 12. I prefer 15 to 20 in order to continue rolling out capabilities. 12 just gives me the ability to basically keep the lights on and do some little improvements here and there. Any additional work will have to be resourced to support.
Okay. So if I understand, you have about 12 people on a day-to-day basis for sustainment as well as future development.
Small development, not major things.
Yeah,
So
well,
that 12 is just really kind of minimum.
Minimum, but that's not bad.
Colonel Martin, did you have something to add for your staff and the capability that you have? Because that's even a different perspective.
Army Sustainment Command, we currently have 19 people that do SharePoint, but it's not just strictly SharePoint, because they're also doing application development. They do custom application development, but we also, actually, we support outside of the command. We've done some things for Army Material Command, we've done some things for NetCom, or different commands have come to us and leverage they want to leverage the expertise that we have on our team, because we can build something very, very quickly because we've already done that. We can do that in a 48-hour turnaround time. Against another organization, which I will remain nameless, came back and said that would take them 7 weeks to be able to build what we had done. We did it in less than 48 hours, had it published, put it on the SharePoint site to help do certain things within email migration.
One more follow-on question, just out of curiosity. Maybe this was mentioned earlier and I missed it. How are you organized in the CIO G6 arena and with your knowledge management arena? I mean, do you have an official knowledge management cell? And if so, where is that embedded at? But ultimately, who's responsible for success or failure of the portal?
I think Dr. Samaka would be calling me real quick